Joined now by the State Education Commissioner, Jeffrey Riley. So, Jeffrey, there are no rules or regulations that the state can impose on school districts. It's district by district. But do you offer recommendations what this online or remote learning should look like?
We do. Well, first, thanks for having me. I just want to say, obviously nobody predicted this would come, but I'm just so proud of the teachers and administrators I saw in the earlier clip. I think what we decided as a state was we had three big priorities at the beginning of this crisis. First was the safety of our kids and their well-being. You saw some of the food being distributed. We have over 1,200 centers that are up and running across the state to feed our kids that need to get meals. We also wanted to focus on our most vulnerable kids around equity, special needs students, kids in hospitals. And then we really thought it was important for our education staff to maintain contact with the kids. There's a personal connection there that we really thought was critical. And so while we can't mandate individual districts do things, we offered specific guidance for districts about how we thought this should operate. And we did that together. We didn't do it unilaterally. We worked with the PTA, the Mass Teachers Association, the Mass School Committee Association, the Charter School Association, the American Federation of Teachers, and the Superintendent's Association. We took a group of people and said, what do we think is best for our state? And that's how we developed the guidance.
As you heard the people in Revere say, though, it's uneven, that some of these kids just can't make it to the remote classrooms. They can't participate. They've got other responsibilities and jobs now. They have to help out their parents. I mean, how do you even that out? And just to say that Charlie Baker today at his press conference said, well, I'm not in a rush to close the school for the rest of the year, largely for that reason. You got to help out some of the people who really need that environment. And kids are going to get lost or fall through the cracks because they can't keep up for one reason or another.
I think we do see variation in what's being offered across our schools. I do also think that the federal stimulus money that's coming in, which could be over $200 million, could be a way to help even that playing field, whether that's through summer learning or more resources next year, to be able to help any students that did fall behind during this time.
On a couple of practical things, the Amcastis test, that's always a controversy. Is it going to be waived this year for both the younger students and the 10th grade? Is it going to be waived, or is it going to be partly online? What's going to happen with that?
Great question. So there are many people who assume that I have the magic wand to cancel MCAS. It's actually a little bit more complicated. There is federal law and there's state law that we have to contend with. We did at the state apply for a waiver from the federal education department, which we got. That says we wouldn't have to test. So that's hurdle one has been crossed. But we also have to be respectful of the state law. And so right now, the legislators at this moment are on Beacon Hill trying to figure out what exactly will be the authorities granted to the department and the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education around MCAS. We want to be respectful about that. But we do think there will be more clarity in the coming days about MCAS and what that will look like.
Does the legislature also give you the power to decide whether the school year continues? Who makes that decision about when or if? Charlie Baker has said maybe early May, but if that gets pushed back, who makes the final call on that?
So the state will make the final call on that. We've given, with some local exception, we've given guidance out that says no district will have to go beyond its 185th day of school this year. But if local districts choose to go beyond that, they can do so. And there's many different iterations of this, but basically, we've put a cap or a limit on what we think is appropriate for schools, and then we give a little flexibility to local districts to say, you know what, we had a lot of school days before this thing began. Maybe we need to go above and beyond the 185th day.
Luckily, we had no snow days this year, but there are vacations. There's an April vacation, I believe, supposed to start Monday, I believe. A lot of school districts are canceling that, which makes obvious sense to me, but probably a lot of families are thinking, hey, I'm going to use this time, although I don't know where they would go. I'm not going to hop on too many airplanes. But do you offer guidance on that, too, about canceling April vacations?
We did. Well, first, I want to say we absolutely had a mild winter this year, and that was very helpful, but not universal, right? I think some places out in the western part of the state, they did have more snow days than usual. In regards to April vacation, we put out guidance that basically said this is a local decision. But if a school district chooses to continue teaching over the April vacation, they can reduce those days from the 185 number to 181. And that's 4 days they would get credit if they taught Tuesday through Friday. Monday is a holiday, and we can't enforce that. So they would get credit for 4 days.
By the way, on that strict 180, I always thought it was 180, maybe it's 181 days a year. But Do you and the legislature also have, does the legislature have the power to roll that back? Could they say it doesn't have to be in 181 days this year?
I think the legislature has been pretty good about continuing that authority inside the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. In theory, they could. I think because we've come out with guidance that has been done in concert with so many groups, that people are pretty okay with what we put out.
And just on a more upbeat note about providing food services, which a lot of those workers are really knocking themselves out, going in there every day and putting those packages together. What kind of a return are you getting? At first, the city of Boston told us that very few people were showing up for a lot of different reasons, not that they didn't necessarily need the food, but couldn't get there, didn't know where it was. Have you seen an uptick in that?
We've definitely seen an uptick, and as time has gone on, we also think that part of that uptick is also due to the fact that we were able to get some federal relief around how the food could be distributed. So initially, there were very strict requirements about how the food could go out, and they've loosened up those rules to be able to give more meals out at one time, give meals out over the weekend, and things like that.
All right. Education Commissioner Jeffrey Riley, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.